John Miller was the kind of man who didn't dream of big houses or shiny cars. He was a simple man with calloused hands and a kind heart. Every morning he got up before the sun, made breakfast for his family, and left for the small auto shop, where he worked. He didn't earn much, but he earned enough to keep his little house warm, his children fed, and his wife smiling. Or so he thought. He married Laura 8 years ago. Back then, she was full of laughter, always dancing around the kitchen or humming songs while folding laundry. She had fallen in love with John's honesty, his hard work, and the way he always made time for her, no matter how tired he was. In the early years, they didn't have much, but they had each other. And to John, that was everything. When their daughter Emily was born, and later their son Ryan, John felt like the luckiest man on earth. He worked even harder, taking on extra shifts, skipping his own meals so his children could have theirs. His life was full of small sacrifices, the kind that build strong families. But slowly something began to change. Something he didn't see at first, or maybe refused to see. Laura grew distant. She stopped laughing. Her warm smiles became rare. She spent more time on her phone, scrolling through social media, staring at pictures of vacations, designer clothes, and beautiful homes. She began comparing her life to others, forgetting that those online pictures were often fake, just people showing off for attention. She started complaining more about the small house, about the second-hand clothes, about how they never went anywhere nice. John tried to make her happy. He saved for months to take the family to a nearby beach. It wasn't fancy, but the kids loved it. Laura smiled for a few pictures but spent most of the trip texting. Then came Victor. Victor was a customer at John's garage, wealthy, confident, with a fancy car and even fancier clothes. He spoke with a smooth voice, always flashing his expensive watch, and talking about trips to Europe or dinners at five-star hotels. Laura happened to be at the shop one day when Victor came by. She was picking up John's lunch, but her eyes met Victor's, and something changed in her gaze. John didn't notice at first. He thought she was just having a bad week. But Victor kept visiting. Sometimes for car repairs, sometimes for no reason at all. He'd chat with Laura when John wasn't looking, leave her laughing at things John never even heard. Soon, Laura started dressing differently. More makeup, new clothes, even perfume that John couldn't afford. And then it happened. One evening, John came home to find the house too quiet. The kids were in their room, but Laura was standing in the living room with a suitcase. Her face was blank, cold. John looked at her, confused. "Are you going somewhere?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm leaving," she said flatly. "I can't do this anymore." John blinked, not understanding. "Leaving? What are you talking about?" "I'm going with Victor," she said, eyes avoiding his. "I want a better life. I deserve one." John's heart sank. He looked toward the kids' room. "What about Emily and Ryan?" Laura shrugged. "They're better off here. I can't take care of them the way I want. You're a good father. You'll manage." He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The woman he had loved, the mother of his children, was walking away. Not just from him, but from her own kids. No hug, no kiss, no goodbye to them. Just a bag in her hand and selfishness in her heart. The front door closed behind her with a soft click. John stood there for a long time, too shocked to cry. He felt like someone had kicked the air out of his lungs. He didn't sleep that night. He sat on the couch, staring at nothing, hearing the echoes of her words. "I want a better life." The next morning, he had to tell the kids. Emily, just 6 years old, asked, "Where's Mommy?" John tried to smile. "She had to go somewhere for a while." "When is she coming back?" Ryan asked, his small fingers holding onto John's hand. John couldn't answer. His throat tightened, and he turned away so they wouldn't see his tears. The days that followed were hard. Everywhere he looked, he saw reminders of Laura. her shoes by the door, her mug in the kitchen, her perfume on the pillow. He could have thrown them away, but he didn't. Not yet. The pain was fresh, and part of him still hoped it was all a bad dream. But she didn't call, didn't write. Weeks passed, then months. She was gone, truly gone. And John was alone, yet he didn't break. He couldn't. His children needed him more than ever. So he got up each morning, packed their lunches, helped with homework, cooked dinner, and told them bedtime stories even when his heart was heavy. He became both mother and father, protector and comforter. His hands, rough from work, became soft when wiping away his children's tears. Neighbors noticed the change. Some whispered behind his back. Some pitied him. But others helped, bringing meals, offering rides, or just listening when he needed to talk. Slowly a new routine formed. It wasn't the life he had planned, but it was still a life, and it belonged to him and his kids. He watched as Emily began drawing again, and Ryan started laughing at cartoons. Their pain didn't vanish, but it faded. And each time they smiled, John felt a tiny bit of healing inside him. Late at night, when the house was quiet, he sometimes still thought about Laura. He wondered where she was, if she ever thought about the children she left behind. But those thoughts grew fewer. He was learning to let go. One day, Ryan brought home a school drawing, a picture of their family. It showed a house, a tree, Emily, Ryan, and John. No sign of Laura. John looked at it for a long time. The colors were bright. The smiles were wide. And in the middle he saw himself with a cape like a superhero. He hung it on the fridge, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. He had been left behind, hurt, abandoned. But he was still standing. And though life had broken him, he was slowly, piece by piece, putting himself and his family back together. And somewhere out there, Laura had no idea what she had walked away from. But one day, she would. And when that day came, she wouldn't believe her eyes. John's life changed completely the moment Laura left. The quiet house they once shared suddenly felt empty, cold and lonely. The silence where her laughter used to be was like a heavy shadow hanging over everything. But John had no time to fall apart. His two children, Emily and Ryan, depended on him now more than ever. Their little faces, full of confusion and sadness, pushed him to be strong even when his own heart felt broken. Every morning, John woke up early, much earlier than before. He had to get the kids ready for school, make breakfast, pack their lunches, and make sure they had everything they needed. It was tiring. He often worked late into the night, fixing cars and managing the auto shop. But he never missed helping Emily with her homework or reading bedtime stories to Ryan. Even when he was exhausted, he put on a smile for his children, hiding his pain so they wouldn't worry. John found himself doing things he had never done before. He learned how to braid Emily's hair, a task that made him nervous, but he wanted to do it right. He figured out how to make Ryan's favorite peanut butter sandwiches just like Laura used to. He even discovered how to calm a frightened toddler during thunderstorms, holding Ryan close and whispering until the tears stopped. Despite the sadness, John was determined to give his children a normal childhood. He wanted them to feel safe and loved, even if their family had changed. He took them to the park on weekends, played catch in the yard, and attended every school event he could. Sometimes neighbors would come over to help. Mrs. Jenkins from next door brought over homemade cookies, and Mr. Carter offered to drive Emily to her soccer practice when John had to work late. The community wrapped around them like a warm blanket, reminding John he wasn't completely alone. But even with all the love around him, John missed Laura deeply. At night, after tucking Emily and Ryan into bed, he would sit alone in the dark living room, staring at the empty spot where Laura's favorite chair used to be. His heart ached with questions. Why did she leave? Did she ever think about the kids? Did she regret abandoning them? The kids asked about their mother often. Emily, who was just 6 years old, didn't understand why Mommy didn't come home. She asked if Mommy was sick, or if she was coming back soon. Ryan, younger and quieter, seemed to accept the absence more, but sometimes cried himself to sleep, missing his mother's hugs. John never wanted to give false hope, but he didn't want to crush their little hearts either. He told them Mommy was away for a while and that she loved them. But the truth was, Laura didn't call, didn't write, and didn't come back. John didn't know where she was, or if she was even thinking about them. Because of this, John had to grow up fast, both as a father and a man. He couldn't just fix cars anymore. He had to fix broken spirits too. His days became a careful balance of work, parenting, and emotional healing. Every moment he wasn't with his kids, he worried about them. Every night, he prayed that one day they would all be whole again. Slowly, John started thinking about the future. The auto shop he worked at was small and struggling. It was a tough business, and John knew he couldn't depend on it forever. For his children's sake, he needed to do better, to create a life where they could thrive, not just survive. At first, he took night classes at a community college. Learning business and marketing was hard after long days of work, but John was determined. He studied while Emily and Ryan did their homework beside him. They saw their father's dedication, and it inspired them to work hard in school, too. John began saving every penny he could. He cut back on expenses, skipping small luxuries, like eating out or buying new clothes. He wanted to open his own auto repair shop someday, one where he could employ others and provide a steady income for his family. But running a business while raising 2 kids alone wasn't easy. There were days when John felt like giving up, when the weight of responsibility was too much to bear. He often thought about how different life would have been if Laura had stayed. He wondered if she ever thought about the nights he cried silently after putting the kids to bed, or the sacrifices he made to keep them safe. Yet, despite the pain, John never let bitterness take over. He refused to let anger or resentment destroy what was left of his family. Instead, he used his heartache as fuel. Every time he fixed a car, every time he saw a smile on Emily's face or heard Ryan laugh, he found a reason to keep going. Emily and Ryan began to notice the changes too. They saw their father grow stronger, more confident. They felt the warmth of his love in every meal he cooked, every story he read, every time he cheered them on at school events. Even when John was tired, he showed up for them. This gave the children a sense of stability they desperately needed. Over time, John also began to connect more with other single parents in town. He joined a support group where fathers shared their struggles and victories. It was comforting to know he wasn't alone. He made friends who offered advice, helped with babysitting, or just listened when he needed to talk. The years went by. Emily grew into a bright, kind-hearted girl who loved to draw and read. Ryan developed a passion for building things, always tinkering with toys and gadgets. John felt proud watching them grow, knowing he had kept them safe despite everything. John's small dream of owning his own business finally came true. After years of hard work and saving, he opened his own auto repair shop. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. He hired a few workers from the town, providing jobs to others who needed them. The shop became a place where people trusted not just the service, but the man behind it. He even started a YouTube channel, sharing simple car repair tips. To his surprise, it became popular. People from all over the country watched his videos, and the money from ads helped him expand the business. This extra income meant he could give Emily and Ryan more opportunities, like better school supplies, sports equipment, and family outings. The community admired John's resilience. They saw how a man who had been broken by life's hardships had risen again, stronger than before. He became an example not just of hard work, but of love and dedication. Meanwhile, Laura was nowhere in sight. John never stopped wondering about her, but he had learned to live without her. The kids stopped asking about their mother as they grew older, their questions replaced by new dreams and hopes. They had John, and that was enough. John kept some old pictures of Laura for the children, thinking maybe one day they would want to know about her. But for now, their family was whole in its own way. A father and his two children who had survived pain and built a new life together. Though life was far from perfect, John had found peace in the simple moments. A laugh shared with Emily, a high five from Ryan, a quiet evening at home. These moments were proof that love, even after loss, could heal and grow stronger. And deep inside, John knew that no matter what the future held, he and his children would face it together. Because the family he had now was made of something unbreakable: love, courage, and hope. Over the years, John Miller's life slowly began to change. The painful memories of the day Laura left didn't disappear completely, but they became quieter. In their place grew something stronger: hope and determination. John's hard work and love for his children started to build a better future, not just for himself but for Emily and Ryan as well. John's small auto shop was no longer just a place where he fixed cars. It became his dream come true. After many long nights studying business and saving money, John managed to open his own repair shop. It was a small building on the edge of town, with a bright red sign that simply said, "Miller's Auto Care." It wasn't fancy or expensive, but it was his. And every morning John woke up with a new energy, knowing that this was a fresh start. The shop was more than just a business. John wanted it to be a place where people could trust him, where he could help others, and where his children could feel proud of their father. He hired 2 workers from town, both young men who needed a chance at steady jobs. John treated them like family, teaching them not just how to fix cars, but how to work hard and stay honest. Meanwhile, John also used his growing knowledge of the internet to help expand his business. He started a YouTube channel where he posted videos about simple car repairs and maintenance. At first, only a few people watched, but slowly the number of viewers grew. His videos were easy to understand and honest, and people appreciated his kind voice and genuine advice. Before long, John's channel had thousands of followers. People from other states and even other countries sent messages thanking him for helping them save money and learn new skills. The extra money he earned from the videos helped him improve the shop, buy better tools, and give his children things he never thought possible. Emily and Ryan were growing up quickly. Emily was a bright, artistic girl who loved to draw and write stories. She spent hours creating colorful pictures, often showing them to her dad with a big smile. Ryan, on the other hand, was curious about how things worked. He loved building things, from toy cars to small robots, and dreamed of becoming an engineer someday. John made sure to support their dreams in every way he could. He saved for art supplies and books for Emily, and for robotics kits and classes for Ryan. He helped them with their homework, attended parent-teacher meetings, and cheered loudly at every school event. Even though being a single father was difficult, John never missed a chance to show how much he loved his children. The community around John and his kids noticed the change too. John was no longer the broken man who had been left behind. He was a symbol of strength, resilience, and hope. Neighbors and friends admired how he balanced work and parenting, and many began to see him as a role model. John's story even caught the attention of local newspapers. A reporter came to interview him about how he rebuilt his life after his wife left. The article described John as a heroic single dad who never gave up. Suddenly, more people knew about Miller's Auto Care, and business grew even more. John was invited to speak at community events about entrepreneurship and fatherhood. He shared his journey openly, talking about the struggles of being a single parent and the rewards of hard work and love. His story inspired many people, especially other single dads who felt alone and overwhelmed. Despite all the success, John stayed humble. He never forgot the long nights of exhaustion, the tears he cried in silence, or the fear he felt when he worried if he was doing enough for his kids. Every step forward reminded him of how far they had come. Emily and Ryan noticed this too. They saw their father's quiet strength, his endless patience, and his deep love. It made them proud and gave them confidence to face their own challenges. They knew their family was different from others, but that difference made their bond stronger. John still kept some pictures of Laura in a small box. Sometimes Emily would find them and ask questions about her mother. John answered honestly but carefully, telling them she was someone who had made mistakes, but who was still part of their past. As the children grew older, their questions became fewer. They were busy building their own lives with their dad. John often thought about the day Laura left. At first it was a day full of pain and loss, but now he looked at it as a turning point. It was the moment that pushed him to be better, to love harder, and to never give up. There were days when John still wondered where Laura was and what she was doing. He wondered if she thought about them, if she regretted leaving. But those thoughts didn't control him anymore. He had found peace in the life he had created. John's business continued to grow. He opened a small training program for teenagers interested in learning about car repair. He wanted to give others the chance he had gotten later in life. This program became popular in the town, and John felt proud knowing he was helping young people find new paths. John's relationship with his children grew stronger every day. Emily began winning awards at school for her art, and Ryan started competing in robotics contests. John was their biggest fan, always encouraging them to follow their dreams. The family still faced challenges. Money was tight sometimes, and John often worked long hours to make ends meet. But the love between them was a shield that protected them from the worst hardships. John never remarried, not because he didn't want to love again, but because his focus was on his children and their happiness. He was cautious with his heart, wanting to protect what he had rebuilt so carefully. Then one day, everything changed again. Out of nowhere, Laura walked back into John's life. She came to the garage, not as the woman who had left years ago, but as someone broken and lost. She had lost everything. Victor had left her, and she had nowhere to go. John and the kids were stunned. Laura had no idea what she was walking into. They had built a life without her. They had healed, and now she wanted a second chance. But John knew that some wounds run deep. It wasn't going to be easy. Would you like me to continue with part 4? I can keep telling this story in simple, interesting language. Years had passed since Laura walked away from John and their children. Life had moved on. The pain that had once felt so sharp was now a quiet ache, something that lingered but didn't control them anymore. John had built a strong life for Emily and Ryan, a life full of love and hope. Then one afternoon, the past suddenly came knocking on the door in the form of Laura herself. She arrived at John's auto repair shop, her face tired and worn. The confident woman who had once left with a suitcase and no goodbyes now looked smaller, softer, almost like a stranger. John was surprised but also guarded. He remembered the hurt, the nights alone, the struggles he faced raising the kids. How could she just come back after all these years? Laura explained what had happened. After leaving John, she thought life with Victor would be easy and full of luxury. But it wasn't. Victor was not the man she had believed him to be. He used her and left her behind, alone and with nothing. The money she thought she would have disappeared quickly, and so did the glamorous life she dreamed about. Now she had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. John listened quietly. Inside, a mixture of anger and sadness swirled, but he didn't want to hurt his children by bringing chaos back into their lives. Emily and Ryan had grown up without their mother, and they were finally happy. Laura's sudden return was like a storm threatening to break the peace John worked so hard to create. Despite his feelings, John showed kindness. He didn't turn her away, but he also didn't promise anything. He said she could stay for a short time while she figured out her next steps, but it was clear she would have to earn her place again, if at all. Emily and Ryan were shocked. Their mother, the woman who had left them without explanation, was back. At first, Emily didn't want to see her. Ryan was quiet but confused. They remembered the pain of abandonment and were unsure if they could trust her again. Laura tried to make up for lost time. She spent days talking with the kids, trying to explain why she left and promising to be better. But words alone couldn't fix years of absence. Emily and Ryan needed more than apologies. They needed actions. John watched closely, protecting his children while giving Laura a chance to show she truly wanted to change. He wanted to believe in forgiveness, but wasn't ready to forget. The past was too real. In the weeks that followed, Laura struggled to find her place in a family that had moved on without her. She helped around the house, cooked meals, and even tried to get a job. But trust was slow to grow. Emily and Ryan kept their distance, afraid of being hurt again. John felt torn. On one hand, he wanted to help Laura because he believed in second chances. On the other hand, he was angry at her for the pain she caused. He worried she might hurt the children again if he wasn't careful. One evening after putting the kids to bed, John and Laura talked honestly. Laura admitted how wrong she was to leave. She said she missed the kids every day but felt trapped by fear and pride. She explained how much she wanted to be part of their lives again. John told her forgiveness was possible but not automatic. It would take time, patience, and proof. The children's happiness came first. Over time, Laura's actions began to show her sincerity. She attended school meetings with John, helped with homework, and slowly earned the children's trust. Emily even shared a drawing with her that showed the whole family together, a small but meaningful sign of hope. John saw the changes and felt hope too, but he remained cautious. He knew forgiveness was a journey, not a destination. Meanwhile, life continued to challenge John. Balancing his growing business and parenting was a constant effort. Sometimes he felt exhausted, but he never gave up. He reminded himself that the hardest roads often lead to the most beautiful places. Laura's return also forced John to face old wounds. He had to confront his own feelings of betrayal and hurt. He learned that healing wasn't just for the children, but for him too. As the family slowly rebuilt itself, John found strength in forgiveness, love, and the belief that people can change. The road ahead wasn't easy, but it was filled with possibility. Emily and Ryan began to smile more, their laughter returning like sunshine after a long winter. Laura's presence was still new and fragile, but with every small step, the family grew stronger. John realized that family isn't always perfect. Sometimes it's messy and painful, but it's also where love has the power to heal and create new beginnings. And in that small, busy auto repair shop, with the red sign glowing in the evening light, a broken family started to find its way back to each other. Let me know if you want me to continue with the final part, Part 5, to finish this story in the same simple and interesting style. The months after Laura's return were filled with challenges and small victories. Life had changed for everyone in the Miller family, and nothing was the same as before. But the changes brought new feelings, hope, healing, and a chance to build something better from the broken pieces of the past. John still carried the weight of years spent raising Emily and Ryan alone. He had grown stronger, but the scars of betrayal were not easy to forget. At the same time, he could see Laura was trying. She was no longer the woman who had left without a word. Now she was quiet, thoughtful, and ready to face the consequences of her choices. Emily and Ryan, who had been so hurt by her absence, slowly started to open their hearts again. It wasn't fast or easy. Sometimes they were angry, sometimes sad, but they also wanted to believe in the mother they barely knew anymore. John spent many evenings sitting with the kids, talking about feelings, trust, and forgiveness. He knew these were difficult lessons, but important ones. The family began to spend more time together. Laura helped with dinner, went to school events, and even joined John and the kids on weekend trips. Slowly, their home filled with laughter again. At the auto repair shop, John's business was doing better than ever. The YouTube channel had thousands of followers, and people trusted him for advice. The shop had expanded, and John had hired more workers. He was proud of what he had built, but he never forgot the sacrifices it took to get there. One day, Laura surprised John by asking if she could help with the shop. She wanted to work, to contribute and show she was serious about being part of the family. John hesitated but finally agreed. Laura started helping with simple tasks, organizing the office, and learning about the work John did every day. The children saw this change too. Emily told her father how happy she was to see her mother trying so hard. Ryan, once quiet and shy, began sharing stories about his mother helping at home. The family was growing closer, healing old wounds with time and patience. John also found peace in forgiving Laura. It didn't mean forgetting the past, but choosing not to let it control the future. He realized that everyone makes mistakes, and that real strength comes from admitting them and trying to be better. Together, they created new memories. They celebrated birthdays with laughter, went on camping trips, and supported each other through school challenges. John watched Emily's art grow more beautiful, and Ryan's curiosity bloom into talent. Laura never stopped working to rebuild trust. She talked honestly with the children, answering their questions without excuses. She apologized when she made mistakes and showed kindness every day. Slowly, Emily and Ryan stopped seeing her as the woman who had left and started seeing her as their mother again. One afternoon, the family gathered in the living room. Emily showed Laura a new drawing, this one of their family, standing together under a big tree. The picture was full of color and hope. Laura smiled with tears in her eyes, knowing this was the true gift she had been missing for so long. John looked at them all and felt a deep sense of gratitude. The road had been long and hard, but here they were, stronger and closer than ever before. Life still wasn't perfect. There were tough days, disagreements, and moments of doubt. But the Miller family had learned that love isn't about never falling down. It's about always getting back up together. John knew that his children would carry the lessons of their past, but that their future was bright. They were surrounded by love, resilience, and the promise of new beginnings. In the quiet moments, John sometimes thought about the journey they had traveled. He remembered the nights filled with tears, the struggles of single fatherhood, and the moments when hope seemed impossible. But he also remembered the laughter, the small victories, and the unbreakable bond that had brought them through. This was a story about pain and healing, loss and forgiveness, and the power of love to change lives. John, Emily, Ryan, and Laura had all grown from their experience. They had discovered that even after the deepest wounds, there was a chance to start again. And so in a small town, with a red auto repair sign shining brightly, a family found its way back to each other, stronger, wiser, and filled with hope for the future. If you want, I can help you turn this story into a full written piece or help with any other part.